Good morning. Grab your protein shake. I'm reading y'all's comments. They're not here yet. So if you're catching the replay, hashtag replay. It takes a minute for it to kick over. It says one person is here. Well, I see more than one person in the comments. There it goes. For a minute there, it said only one person was on my live. Good morning. Oh, I didn't get my preaching stick. Hang on. I have to tell y'all, I was flipping through TikTok and I saw that this preaching stick that I order from, people have asked me, this is called Beach Wave, is what this is. Well, I saw that there was this cow preaching stick for $50 and I got some birthday money. And so I said, I'm getting me a cow printed preaching stick. So I did. So we have a new preaching stick coming. We do. And I feel like that is going to be so cute to have a little, it's got like little cow. Oh, it's on here. I can't remember what color this is. I think this color is black. And then all this is cow print. It's black and white. But we're getting a new preaching stick. I feel like I need one. I feel like I thought I got this birthday money that people, my mother-in-law sent me money and a couple other people had sent me some money for my birthday. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to spoil myself and get a new preaching stick. That's what I thought. Okay. Let me check in. I've taken my glasses off, so Kayla's in charge. So when you see Sneed's Farmhouse Sanctuary commenting, I'm not magic and can have my hands in my hair and type at the same time. Although that would be pretty cool if I could do that. But it's Kayla on my backup. And then Chris and Karen are here to get out the crazies. Okay. So thank you to my moderators. Thank you to my moderators for helping out. Let me check in. I am all over the map today. I'm mad. I'm sad. Like all these emotions are going through me at the same time. Like I am literally, I'm letting my curling iron warm up. Last night at normally I go to bed somewhere between 8 and 9 usually. But now that the time is all it's getting darker later, I can't go to bed at 8 o'clock because I'm putting animals up at 8 o'clock. So I'm where I used to be tired before. I'm really tired now because before I could come in at 5 o'clock and my day was over. Well, now I'm putting animals to bed at 8 o'clock at night. And so my day starts at 5 o'clock in the morning or 5:30 in the morning, and it doesn't end till 8 o'clock at night. And so I'm very fatigued. So when I get very fatigued, you know how if you're hungry or tired, you become mean as a snake. You know what I'm talking about? You know how especially with your children, you can tell when they need a nap because they become mean as a snake. And you're like, oh, I need to go feed them, or they need to go take a nap. Well, I'm 53 and I'm the same way. If I'm starving to death, I'm mean as a snake. if I'm tired, I'm mean as a snake. It's like the sweet little Judy goes away and this demon comes out in me and I just get terrible. And lately I'm just tired, which this week, my farm has been slow. Today the group home's coming. They come every Wednesday. But I've been really slow this week. So it rained yesterday, but I've really I've been when I don't have a lot of people at my farm is when I have to do cleaning. So I cleaned out the duck pond, I cleaned out the duck rescue, I cleaned out the Bantam coop. I had to go in and put spray foam because it's leaking. I had to go do all that, clean out the nesting pads. I need to do the barn. Like those are the times that I have to take advantage of cleaning, is when people are not here. Yesterday at 9:30 at night, I'm sitting in the living room having to break things down. It was terrible. It was terrible. And have you ever, if you're new at breaking things down, I said I was going to talk about marriage today, but I'm not. I mean, I might hit on it, but I think I need to explain how to break things down, because last night when I was trying to break things down, I was stuck. I was like, I don't even know what to break down. I'm so mad. I got to break this down. And I was trying to separate myself from Larry and Shane so that I could get by myself to make my brain process what was happening. And so I went into the living room. Shane was taking a shower. Larry was already in his bedroom. So I was like, let me sit in the living room and let me just literally Sometimes when I break this down, I'm not writing it down. But I have found I do better when I write it down. And I don't write it down on a sheet of paper. I get my phone and I go to notes and I just start typing. So today I want to talk about how to break something down. And the way I break it down, it's different every time. So I was trying to think last night when I was trying to break it down, and I was like, I can't even break this down. I can't figure out what he's trying to say to me. I can't figure out what I'm supposed to do because he's all over the map. He says one thing and he does something totally different. I can't figure out where my place is, what I'm supposed to do. I can't figure anything out. And my brain was just spinning out of control. And I was like, I hate all this. And this is me. I don't know about you, but when I get that frustrated, I want to run like Forrest Gump. I want to get in my car and leave, which is not good. But that's what I want to do. I'm like, I'm so mad that I cannot break this down, and I just want to be like Forrest Gump and just go run. Go get my running shoes on and run until I can't run no more. That's what I feel like I was wanting to do last night. But is running away the answer? I felt like running away was the answer last night. That's what I felt like. And then I had to sit there and go, okay, if I run away from home at 53, where am I going? You know what I'm saying? Like, where am I going? Majority of my friends live in Maine and Missouri, and so I can't go run to their house. So where am I going? Like, where am I running to? But that's how I was feeling, because I could not get to any resolution last night with what was going on. I felt like I was all over the map, and I was trying my best to break down what this person was trying to say to me, and I could not figure it out. I could not figure it out. So let me tell you what I had to do last night. And maybe this will help you if you go, Aunt Judy's telling me to break this crap down. I don't even know where to begin. Like, I don't know. I don't know how to do that crap. I don't know how to do that, because that is exactly how I felt last night. I'm like, I've broken things down for years and I cannot break this down. I cannot figure out for the life of me what he's trying to say to me. I can't read through the lines. I can't do this. So this is going to be hard. Okay. Breaking things down is hard, because when you break things down, you can't break down what all he did. You have to break down what you did, which means you did something wrong, that you have ownership in what happened. And that takes emotional maturity to get out of your comfort zone, to go, I have to figure out where I went wrong. Because you're stuck in what he did wrong or what she did wrong. Like, that's what you're stuck in. Like, if you're fighting with a friend, you're like, let me just tell you what she said to me. Oh my gosh. You're concentrating on what the person said or what the person did, or can you believe she said that to me? You're stuck in that. Okay. So yesterday I wrote down who I was mad at. I started there. I'm like, okay, who am I mad at? And I wrote it down. And I'm like, what the crap happened? And I'll tell you that it was so chaotic that I was having a hard time even recalling what happened. I was stuck in the emotion of, this sucks. I'm so mad. I feel like crying. I feel like running away, that I kind of forgot where it started. Have you ever done that? Like, you're mad and you're like, okay, how did this even begin? Like, where were we? What were we talking about that made her do this? Like the trigger, like what? I was having a hard time even figuring out where it all started. So I just began to write down how I felt about the situation. Like, what was it making me feel like? And I was writing down, I feel like running away from home. I feel like that I'm being manipulated. I feel like all I want to do is cry. I feel like I want to give up Sneed's farmhouse. I feel like I want to give up social media. I was writing down exactly how I felt because I couldn't remember the story. I couldn't remember the story. And I'm like, why can't I remember what happened? But I think it was so confusing to me that I was having a hard time figuring out like where it all started from. So I wrote down, so when you're trying to break something down, you need to write down the person that caused you to feel the way you did. I have a frog in my throat. Write down the person that caused you to feel the way you feel. And then write down, if you can't remember, if you're like your Aunt Judy and you cannot remember what happened, you just are remembering how it made you feel, write it down. I feel like running away. I feel like I want to be Forrest Gump and put on my shoes and run until I can't run no more. Like, write down everything that you're feeling in the moment. Write it down. Wrong or right, write down how you feel. Are y'all writing this down? Then your next step is to write down your ownership in it. What? I did something wrong? Are you kidding me? I didn't do she's the jackleg that said all this. It wasn't me. I literally did nothing. It was that jackleg that kept saying all this. No, stop. What is your ownership in the situation? What did you do to cause that person to be triggered? Because if someone is going off on you, there's some type of trigger that has happened. So you have to stop what you're doing and figure out your ownership in the argument or whatever you're doing with the person. You have ownership. And I'm going to tell you something. If you can sit down and figure out your ownership, I'm going to tell you right now, you're doing well. If you can stop in the middle of an argument, get away on your side and go, okay, let me write down how I'm feeling. I feel mad. I feel like I want to cry. I feel like I want to run away from home. I feel like I want to, whatever you're feeling. And then go to the next step and go, what is my ownership in this? Buddy, I'm going to tell you, you're headed to recovery when you can be so mad, but figure out your ownership in the argument. You are headed for a happy life, a good life, a life of contentment, a life of healing. When you can sit down in the middle of, I've done nothing wrong, because in the beginning, you're like, this is her problem. This is his problem. But when you're mature enough to go, what did I say to trigger this jackleg? What did I say? That is the moment that you will have healing and happiness. When you're not stuck on what he did or what she did, when you're able to get out of your comfort zone and figure out what you did, is the moment you'll have healing. So I'm like, now the hard part. What's my ownership in this crap? And it took me a minute, y'all. It didn't come to me easily. I was like, what did I do wrong? And you're sitting here, was it something I said? Was it something I did? Was it the look on my face? Was it a combination of all the above? Like, what did I do to trigger this person? And generally, when you're able to find your ownership, I'll just tell you what my ownership was. I've learned in the past 12 hours that I've been doing this that I can't say the word money out loud. I can't say it to anyone. I have got to keep my mouth shut when it comes to money. Doesn't that seem stupid? It seems stupid, doesn't it? But I learned when breaking it down, you know how my biggest fear is to be homeless? So sometimes when I trigger someone, like if I say something like, let me think of an example. If I'm being triggered, like let's say that I have no money coming in for the month of, what is this month? Month of April. Let's just say that everything that I did on my farm for the month of April was all volunteer. And like I did, like nobody came but group homes. Nobody came but sober living facilities. And, I had the Remy Foundation. So autistic schools came and it was all volunteer work and I made absolutely zero money. And I have vet bills, I have feed and all this stuff. So then what happens to me is I get triggered because I'm like, oh my God, I can't, oh my gosh. And I have a problem, okay, worrying about being homeless, worrying about having, like, I will sit here and go, what if I have to get rid of my animals? What if my farm doesn't make it? Because a lot of farms, especially like petting zoos, they don't make it. Their rescues are upside down. Like they have to depend on donations to function. So like when someone like me is just giving back, giving back, giving back, and I'm not receiving anything, and I'm just giving back, I can't stay in business. I'm upside down when there's no money coming in. So then what happens to me is I begin to go into panic. Oh my gosh. The first thing I say to myself is, you're going to have to get rid of Leroy. Where's he going? Oh my gosh. Who's going to take him? Oh my gosh. Like I go into panic. And I begin to tell myself that I'm going to have to get rid of my animals. I'm going to have to get rid of my farm. Shane is going to leave me. I'm going to be left with nothing. I'm going to have to live under the interstate. I go into la la land. And even though I know that I do that, it doesn't stop me doing that. Like it's like consumes my brain, because when you have a true fear, and you're triggered by your fear, you go straight to the struggle bus. And you will sit here and spin your brain all out of control and tell yourself all these lies that are not true. And it takes a minute for you to catch on to what you're doing in your head, because you're so used to doing it, because it's been a fear of yours for so long that it's hard to train your brain not to go to the struggle bus when you're giving back to the community and you're not getting anything in return. So what I end up doing is I end up talking about it. I end up, like, let's just say my kid calls me, or I don't know, Shane comes home, and I just go, oh my gosh, I can't afford this. What am I going to do? I just spent $1,000 on feed, and I'm just giving back constantly, and I'm not getting anything in return. And what am I going to do? I'm going to be upside down. And I'm throwing my fears on Shane or my kids or whoever, called Kayla, somebody that is standing in front of me. I begin to throw the fears that are in my heart and in my brain, because they're true fears of mine. As silly as it sounds, it scares the bejesus out of me. I am so fearful of losing my farm or my house or whatever. So when I start throwing my fears on someone else, chances are, if they fear like things, I'm triggering them. So if for example, if Shane comes home and I'm on the struggle bus and I'm spinning out of control, and he comes home and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just spent no, I wish I spent 100. I just spent $400 at the grocery store. And oh my gosh, I'm going to have to call the vet for Georgia Lee, because I need to know if she's pregnant, because I need to be prepared. And that's going to be $85 to pull in the driveway, $65 for the ultrasound. There's no telling what. And I'm spinning out of control. You see me? I'm like talking with no breath. And I do that to Shane. And he comes home and he's like, I trigger him. I trigger my children. I trigger Kayla. I trigger whoever I'm around when I'm in this emotional mind. I am triggering the people around me. So then when I trigger them and they fire back at me, then I'm pissed off. like, let me just tell you what my son just said to me, or let me just tell you what Shane just said to me. That's jackleg. He makes me so mad because I'm caught up in triggering him because I've been triggered. How do I not do this? Okay, so when I was in the living room last night wanting to run away from home, I was about to pack my bags and run away from home. And I was like, okay, what is my ownership? Okay, I wrote down how I feel about it. Now it's time for me to go, what did I do to cause this? And I recognized real quick that I was in fear of money. I wish that I didn't do that, because none of my fears of money are true. It's all lies that I tell myself. I will never be homeless. Shane and I are fine. Shane would never let me fail at Sneed's farmhouse. No matter what happened, I think that he would have my back. But at the end of the day, I don't know how to get over my fear of being homeless or being broke. And I tell you that I have to go back to childhood to figure out where these fears come from all the time. I have to go, what is wrong with me? Why am I doing this? But when I sat down last night and I was breaking it down and I was like, what is my ownership? I realized real quick that I trigger everybody around me. When fears overcome me, I trigger everybody that I talk to, my family. I trigger my children. And if I set them down and, said, I'm sure they've never said this, but I'm sure I straight up get on their nerves when I start going to preaching about money or, stuff like that, because my fears come over me and I just start talking and preaching to Shane and my children, whoever will listen to me. That's what I do. So my ownership and what was happening was I keep talking about money. And y'all probably can see it. If you've been following me for a while, y'all know I panic over money. It's embarrassing though. If you think about like your fears and what you're fearful of, it's so embarrassing. Because you're like, I must look like a crazy person when I go into this fear when none of it's like happening. You know what I mean? Like if I go into this fear and I'm spinning out of control, Shane is looking at me going, are you broke? Do you have food in the refrigerator? Do you have clothes? And I'm like, yes, but that's not what I'm talking about. Like he's looking at me like, here she goes. Here she goes. And I do this a lot. And I have realized also with breaking things down, I had to look at what I did to trigger this person. And I triggered them because their triggers are the complete opposite of my triggers. My triggers are I'm going to be homeless. And this person's trigger is they're going to take advantage of me. And it ain't happening. It ain't happening. I've been taken advantage of before. And by golly, you're going to do your part. I'm not doing it all. You're going to do your part. And you ain't sitting around. You ain't sitting around. And I sit here and watch this situation, and it's like the two are triggering, just like me and my ex-husband. His trigger, he was OCD bad. And I had depression bad. And we were triggering each other constantly. But I wasn't smart enough back then to figure out what was going on because I didn't break things down. I would always think everything was my fault. I literally had zero self-confidence. I didn't put the sheets on the bed right. I couldn't put dishes in the dishwasher right. I couldn't break things down. I allowed his illness to control me and told me that I wasn't good enough. I didn't have enough emotional maturity to go, what is happening? I was constantly trying to go fix me. I was like, something's wrong with me. I'm terrible at putting sheets on the bed. Like, I'm not putting a sheet over my car at night to not have ice on my car. I'm running the car in the morning and wasting gas. And like, I'm terrible. I would go to my counselor and go, I'm not thinking clearly. I don't know why that I'm not throwing a sheet. And you're like, what is she talking about? Basically, like during the winter when your windshield freezes. Well, I had a big SUV and I didn't park in the garage because he had a Camaro and a truck that parked in the garage. So in the mornings when I would take the kids to school and it was winter, I would have to go out there and warm my car up to get the window defrosted to take them to school. Well, he would get mad at me and tell me that I was wasting gas. You see where this came from? All this money stuff. You see? I was wasting gas. And he wanted me to go put a sheet over my car every night so that ice wouldn't get on my car, so I didn't have to defrost the car and waste money. Do you see why I'm jacked up when it comes to money? Because I lived in that for 15 years. Okay? So things that would happen to me is if I was allowed $100 a week at the grocery store, that's how much I was allowed at the grocery store. And I literally didn't get a debit card. I got $100 bill. So I would have to go into the grocery store with my calculator because I didn't want to be embarrassed when I went up to the cash register and didn't have enough money and have to go put groceries back. So I would literally sit there in the grocery store and figure up how much, and we didn't have order groceries back then. So I would go with my calculator and I would go to the cheapest grocery store I could find. It was called Discount. I can't remember the name of it, but it was like a secondhand bent and dent store. You know what I'm talking about? I would have to go into that store and with my calculator to figure out how much groceries I could get for. I had 3 kids, 3 teenage boys on top of me and my husband. And I have to go into the grocery store with my calculator to figure out how to spend $100 and feed 5 people in a week. And that week, if I got a haircut, guess what? That came out of my grocery budget. So if I went to get a haircut and it cost $25, then I got $75 to go to the grocery store to feed 5 people, 3 teenage boys. And we wonder why Judy's jacked up when it comes to money. And that's just a couple of stories. That's not even everything that I went through with being married to him and him having OCD and him being obsessed about everything that we did. When we would go on vacation, I remember one year we went to New Orleans. This makes me cry. We went to New Orleans with our kids. Well, when it came to lunchtime, when we were in the middle of New Orleans, me and my husband weren't allowed to eat lunch, but the kids were. But me and him had to pretend like we were not hungry because we couldn't spend money on lunch for us. We could only eat 1 meal a day. But the kids could eat 3 meals a day. But we were allowed to eat 1 meal a day. And we wonder why Judy's jacked up when it comes to money. It takes a long time to get over the crap you have dealt with. And sometimes the trauma that you have been through never leaves you. Sometimes you have to learn how to put tools in your pockets to get over the trauma that you've been through in your life. Whether it's childhood, a marriage, a relationship, whatever it is, an aunt, an uncle that did something to you, like it's not easily gotten over. And when you have a lot of trauma in your life and you go into another relationship, you take all that trauma with you. You do. And you're broken in the next relationship. And so here I am, and I've had all this trauma when it comes to money. And even though in my brain, Shane is nothing like my ex-husband, nothing. But in my brain, the trauma that I went through for 15 years is still there. And sometimes when the trauma is triggered, I go straight to the struggle bus and want to run like Forrest Gump. Because I'm like, I go all over the map. I'm like, oh, this ain't happening to me again. I become strong. And I'm like, I'm running like Forrest Gump. I'm getting the heck out of Dodge. This ain't happening to me again. Or I go to this little shell and go, okay, I'll figure out how to do it myself. If I work 45 more jobs and make ends meet, I'll figure out how to do it. I always do. I'm a fighter. I'll figure it out. I don't need anybody. I can do it myself. I go there. Then I go into crying my eyes out, going, I'm just being manipulated. I'm just being abused. Like and it's not just Shane. I do it with everybody. I do it with my children. I do it with my dad. I do it like with everyone. Because this is my true trauma and my fear, and it's carried with me. The point of healing is recognizing it. It took me a minute to recognize what was happening with me. And recognizing your trauma is, you know how you're like you have something happen to you over and you feel the same pain, like you feel stressed, or your blood pressure is raised, or you have chronic headaches or chronic stomach aches. You have to figure out where this pain is coming from. And you'll notice it's the same fear, just in different situations. We all had this fear from trauma. Okay, so when you go to break it down last night and I couldn't figure out, my brain couldn't get clear. I was by myself. I was doing everything right. I was sitting here with my notebook. I was by myself. It was quiet. I'm in the room by myself and I could not break it down. I could not figure out what was happening, what I was supposed to be learning, what my ownership was. I couldn't figure out nothing, and I felt like running. I was like, I'm so sick of having to be the strong person. I'm so sick of it. But when I figured out my ownership, because I was in my fear of trauma, I'm talking about my trauma as if it's real. I can't afford groceries. I can't afford the vet bill. I can't afford feed this month. And he's like in panic. I'm triggering him. And so it's like what we're talking about is not reality. We can afford the groceries. We can afford the feed. I am living in this nightmare of trauma and crap. So I realized real quick that my ownership in this is I keep talking about nonsense. I do. I keep talking about stupid nonsense to my children, to my friends, to my husband, to my dad. I keep panicking over stupid trauma, and none of it is reality. None of it is. So when you break things down and you want to run like Forrest Gump and you can't figure out what the crap's going on and what the person is trying to say to you, because a lot of times when I break things down, they're different situations. Like this situation is not what Shane is trying to say to me or my kids are trying to say to me. It's what I'm saying. It's nothing that they're doing. It's what I'm doing. But it took me a minute. The reason my brain was so confused and I couldn't figure out what the person was trying to say to me, it's because they weren't trying to say anything to me. It was me talking. It was me triggering the situation. And I was making it worse because I was talking out of fear. Am I making sense? I don't know if I'm making sense. So when your brain is confused, when your brain is confused and you can't break it down, it's probably because you're not breaking down your ownership in the situation. Because every situation that you are in, you have ownership in it. I know right now, when you look in the mirror, it looks like my foundation is too light. I need to say this. But at the end of the video, if you still think my foundation is too light, keep it to yourself. I'm sorry. Because it does look too light. When I put it on like this, I do look like a ghost. But when it's all said and done, it's not that way. I don't know if it's the lighting because I have this makeup mirror that looks like Hollywood. And so the lighting makes my makeup look different. Sorry, I had to go there. Chances are, if you can't figure out how to break it down, or you can't figure out what your wife's trying to say to you, or your kids are trying to say to you, and you can't see the big picture, you've got to figure out your ownership in the situation. Because if you don't, you're going to miss what you're supposed to be learning from this. You're going to miss the whole point. I think that when breaking things down, the questions that you need to ask yourself is, number one, who you mad at? Who just what do they people say, peed in your cornflakes? Who just really rubbed you the wrong way? Write it down. Get your little phone or your notebook, write it. This person made me mad, or me and this person are in a fight, or we don't see eye to eye. Then write down how it makes you feel. Like it makes me feel this way, because you're going to find that your emotions are all over the map when you're trying to talk about how you're feeling per se. You're going to find yourself, it seems crazy that a 53-year-old woman would want to run away from home, right? Like I was wanting to get my suitcases and put them at the door and run away from home. Something's not right with that, right? When you're 53 years old and you want to run away from home, like you're 10 years old. You know what I'm saying? Like, something's wrong with you when you are that upset that you want to run away from home at 53 years old. That's when you have to break it down and figure out your ownership. Like, what is happening? Ask yourself, what is happening with you? Why are you 53 years old wanting to run away from home? Like, what is happening in your house that's like that bad? And then when you're in the moment, you're like, my dad pisses me off. My husband pisses me off. My dogs are pissing me off. And then you end up laughing about it because you're like, well, wow, God. Because I like try to talk to myself and like, what's wrong with you, Judy? And then I'm like, I just hate everyone. Like, hate's a hard word, but I do. I feel hate in my heart right now. Like, I literally feel hate. And then I end up laughing at myself because I'm such a drama queen. And I'm like, God, Judy, you're such drama. But I do. I have to laugh at myself because I realize that my thought process is not quite mature. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not quite on the level of maturity when you want to run away from home. Like you're wanting to run away from your problems instead of facing them. But when I realize, sometimes when you're in the middle of trying to break things down and figure things out, and the problem is not the other person, the problem is you, it's hard for you to say that about yourself. You know what I'm saying? Because we don't find any faults in ourselves when we're in the middle of a fight with someone. We're like, oh, it's all them. They're straight up jackleg. Woke up in a bad mood. It ain't my fault you had a bad day at work. Taking it out on me. You jackleg. Like that's how we say it. That's what we say. Instead of going, I need to get off to myself and I need to break this son of a gun down because something is not right. Something is not right. We think we're perfect and we think everything. I didn't trigger him or I didn't trigger her. They just apparently had a bad day. Wasn't nothing I said. Because I'm perfect. By golly. I'm the only mature one around here. That's what we say. And we don't take the time. We don't take the time to figure out our own faults and our own ownership in things. And it's hard to think about. It's hard to think about we're that jacked up. You know what I'm saying? But when I sit here and with the whole money thing and I have to break it down, I have to remember all the trauma that I've been through. I've been through a lot of trauma when it comes to money. And I used to have to turn in receipts every Friday. Sure did. On Friday afternoons, the hand was out and I had to turn in the receipts. And I was the one who, bought the groceries, bought the paper products for the house, or bought gas or whatever I bought, and I had to turn in receipts on Fridays. And I can remember like my stomach be turning, it would be just turning. I was scared that I was about to get in trouble because sometimes I would get strong when you're in the middle of abuse, and you would get strong. You're like, I don't care what he says. I'm trying to feed 3 kids. If I want to spend $150 at the grocery store, by golly, I make money and I'm going to do it. I'm standing up for myself. And you get strong. And then when Friday comes and you have to turn in the receipt for $150 for groceries, you're like, oh my God, he's fixing to freak out. He's fixing to freak out. Because I was scared. Like my kids would go to the ballpark. And if I spent too much money, the kids didn't get a drink at the ballpark. And I would feel like it was my fault because they didn't get a drink. And I remember one time, I'm just trying to show you the trauma that I've been through. But I remember one time, it was July 4th, and my sister-in-law had a pool. And my sister-in-law invited us over for 4th of July. And we were supposed to bring baked beans. And I remember him telling me that we didn't have the money to take baked beans to her house. And I can remember going, what am I going to say? Like, what am I going to say to her? Like, how do I tell her we don't have the money for baked beans? You know what I'm saying? And my kids were excited about going swimming. And how was I going to tell the kids that we can't go swimming because we don't have the money for baked beans? And in the moment when I was living in that, he would manipulate me to make me think that we really didn't have money for baked beans. I would feel like it was the truth. And we wonder why Judy's so jacked up when it comes to money. So I need you to, when I talk to you about, oh, my knee, when I talk to you about your traumas and so forth, you got to really break it down. Because sometimes when you're in the middle of trauma, you don't see the big picture until you get away from it. But I highly recommend you getting an expert to help you through it, to figure out why you are the way you are. Because I will tell you, I say this all the time. I have counseling today at 11:30. I can't go without it. I have to break things down with her all the time. And I have her and I have a sponsor, and both of them help me tremendously. And I often have to go visit, but I tell you all the time, you have to fix your trauma when you're not in a crisis. You know, a lot of times, you know how sometimes, like, I don't know, you find yourself desperately praying for God when you're in a bad situation, like someone's sick in your family, and you find yourself praying on your knees every single day, begging God for healing. You know what I'm saying? And the whole thing is to really understand your relationship with God. It has to be like you have a relationship with Him, not when you're desperate, not when you're desperate wanting healing for your family. Like, it has to be a daily walk with Him. It has, you have to understand and trust. And if you don't go to Him every day, you're not going to understand when you're in trauma. And let's just say your prayers are not answered. You have to learn how to trust. And if you don't have a daily walk with Him, then you're not going to know how to trust when you're in crisis. And it's the same thing with mental health. If you only go to your counselor when you're in crisis, you're not putting tools in your pocket. To put tools in your pocket, you need to go to counseling when you're not in crisis. Does that make sense? I feel like personally everyone needs counseling. I wish they had counseling in high schools. And it's hard to dig up old wounds. Like a lot of people try to tuck them away and not talk about it and not deal with it. But honestly, when you tuck it away and you don't deal with it, it's showing up. It shows up. Whether you admit it or not, your trauma is showing up in your marriage, in your relationship with your children. Where is my? It's showing up. Looks like a kindergartner put that on. It's showing up. And it's showing up in your spouses. Like, if you want to be a better spouse, don't be a know-it-all and start going, okay, let's break this down. Don't do that. Don't do that. Go fix you. Don't try to get your husband or your wife to break things down. Don't do that. They're going to look at you like you got 4 horns on your head. You have to do this for you. You have to be a better wife or a better husband for you. You have to be the best version of, I can't see, Teresa that you can be. You can't go try to fix your husband and try to teach him to break things down. It doesn't work. He has to figure that on his own. All you can do is figure out how to be the best version of Teresa you can be. What does it look like? Are you happy? Ask yourself, are you happy? If the answer is no, then you need to go fix what's not making you happy. And you may not know the answer. That's why counseling helps you. It helps you figure out, like I am 53 years old and I'm absolutely miserable and I have no idea why. I hate my life. I hate my marriage. I hate my house. I hate living. I can't leave. Like whatever it is, you've got to go break it down to figure out what's holding you back. What is keeping you from moving forward? What is it? Something's happened in your life that makes you sit it out. And that's in the way of your marriage. It's in the way of your relationship with your friends, your kids, your work, God. It's in the way. And if you don't go fix it, it's never going to get better. Because I'm going to tell you, you're always going to have crisis in your life. People are always going to get on your nerves. People are always going to make you want to run like Forrest Gump. It's going to continue to happen. And if you don't go to counseling or go to a preacher or go to, I don't know who, someone that's mature, a sponsor, somebody to teach you to put tools in your pocket, you're going to continue to sit it out. You're not going to dance. When you're not able to break down a situation to figure out your own ownership or what you just triggered your spouse with or kids with, whatever, you're going to sit it out. You're not going to dance. You're going to sit and be miserable. People are going to piss you off. They are. They're going to rob you of your happiness because you're allowing it. Because I'm here to tell you right now, there's no such thing as a perfect relationship, whether it is with a friend, a spouse, kids, parents, whatever. There's no such thing as a perfect relationship. It's something that you have to work at constantly, and people are going to trigger you everywhere you go. They are. And if you've been in an abusive relationship, and you haven't gone to get help for it, you're never going to move forward. You're never going to trust. You're never going to, like, you're going to be stuck in it. And then the next thing you know, you're an old lady or an old man still dealing with the same crap that you dealt with when you were 20 years old, because you never dealt with the trauma that you had in a bad relationship. I'm an example. Let me be your example. Look at me. But I'm learning. And it's a daily walk with me. It's a daily, I have not got it all figured out. I fail every day. I fail every day. The difference is I get back up. I don't let it defeat me. Okay, is my makeup still white? I don't know. I don't let it define me. I figure out, I get knocked down all the time. And I have to figure out how to get back up. How to get back up. It's every day. And some days it wears you out. Some days you're like, I cannot do this again. I keep getting knocked down, and I literally cannot get up. Oh, yes, you can. You just come here on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and these backup dancers here will hold your hand and help you get back up. The end of the day, what we're working on is we're not working on our marriage. We're working on ourselves. We're working on being the best version of ourselves that we can be. That's what our goal is. We can't control what other people do. We can only control ourselves. And being the best version of Judy helps my children, helps my husband, helps my dad, helps my backup dancers. When I get up every day and get off the struggle bus, because I get on the struggle bus every single day. And there's days it wears me out. I have to figure out how to get the shoes on to get off the struggle bus and to get on the double Dutch bus. I have to figure it out. Thank you, Karen, for that saying. That came from Karen. I just stole it from her. But I love that saying, because the double Dutch bus is a song and it makes me laugh and it makes me dance. And when she said that to me, I was like, that's it. That is it. We get on the struggle bus every single day. There's nothing wrong with that. Where it goes wrong is staying on the struggle bus. And together, with 140 something people watching right now, we can hold hands and get off the struggle bus together and get on the double Dutch bus. So today is Wednesday. It's hump day. You have choices. You can listen to what I say and you can sit it out, or you can listen to what I say and you can dance. It's your choice. I will see y'all Friday. Love you. Bye.